he's able to have a huge game on the ground. But I'm a little bit surprised at the lack of effectiveness that Derrick Henry had on the ground, and I don't know I don't know what to attribute that to necessarily. I just think it was a good game plan and a good execution by our defense, and guys were wrapping up, tackling. Even if he was able to get away on second, third contact, there were swarms of defenders on him every time. Just weren't going to let him beat us, and obviously we're able to do that.
Well, 100%. And from what I could tell, I mean, we were basically selling out to the run, right?
Right.
Obviously, we had enough trust in Jair, Amos, Savage, and those guys. We can talk more about them in a second to really lock down that man-to-man coverage, especially in that weather, and that proved to be correct. I'll tell you what, I don't remember a Pettin game where I don't think I saw one three-man front the entire game. We had 4 or 5 defensive linemen just clogging up each and every hole every snap. Because to your point, I think their plan was, hey, the Green Bay Packers can't stop the run. We have the best running back in the league, and we're going to bring it to them. The 155-yard quarterback sneak, I think it was 55 yards, that scored the first touchdown of the half, it was proof of that. We kind of sold out to the run. I think Amos was the one guy who was supposed to hang back just in case anything tricky happened, and you could see he just lost the ball, which was only really the only frustrating drive that the defense had. I mean, you're gonna give up points in this league, but hey, held them to 14, and that's a heck of a game. But now we already mentioned the missed PAT. You mentioned it quickly. It is worth noting that is, I think, his 4th PAT miss, and he hasn't missed a field goal yet. Crosby, that is, and all these have been at Lambeau. Is it weather related? Is it being outside? I want to say all of them have been the first touchdown too. Is there? Are you reading into this, or is it just worth noting and moving on?
Uh, I don't know. I mean, I don't know how he can go out and nail a 58-yarder and then miss a point after attempt. And he has more point after attempt misses, I think, than he has field goal misses, to your point. So I don't know if it's something we need to be worried about. I mean, if he's going to miss something, I guess I'd rather it be a point after and be 1 point than a 3-point field
And
goal.
early.
And early in the game, too, something we can recover from. So I'm not too worried about it yet. I guess we'll kind of keep our eye on it, see if it becomes an issue. But he's Mason Crosby. I mean, I'm not too worried about it. I think he's going to be able to figure it out and get it corrected.
I 100% agree. I am more concerned, I'd say, about our 2-point conversion. Obviously, we went for that the next time to get that point back, and it was no good. I don't remember the last 2-point conversion we've had in a while. It felt like it was a little too cute on the 2-yard line, and we want to punch it in. And I'm going to relate that also to the 4th down play where Aaron eventually got sacked. There was a little, again, it's Aaron Rodgers, and it's the Green Bay Packers, so of course, you're going to put the ball in his hands more often than not, but it just seemed like a long drop back and play on that 4th down in particular, where we turned the ball on downs after that blocked field goal. But yeah, I would like to see a better scheme or plan for 2 or 3 yards or less in some of these key moments.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, on that play you're talking about where Aaron Rodgers got sacked too, it looked like he just kept running backwards and maybe got away
Mm-hmm.
from the things he does well during the scramble, and that's kind of trying to get side to side or, get to the sideline. But that's going to happen once in a while. I mean, again, something he's going to be able to correct, and it could have been the weather. He's probably not as confident in his feet. When you're getting 4 or 5 inches of snow during a game, than maybe he typically would be, and maybe didn't want to plant and go around. It just felt like he had to step backwards. But I think we haven't talked about this yet, and that was Aaron Rodgers' interception. So,
Mm-hmm.
he's rolling to his right, throws back across his body towards the middle left side of the field, gets picked. Yeah, I think watching the game, we were wondering kind of what he saw and why he made that throw, because he could have just easily, run out of bounds or threw the ball away. He chose to make that throw, but I mean, again, one of those things we're nitpicking about because he's only thrown 5 interceptions all year. So, You can't be
And like
flawless, and things like
first,
that are going to happen.
yeah, and it was also like I forget what he said, but first pick in December since like 2015 or something like that.
Yeah, that's right. I think it was the first pick at Lambeau in December in like 3 or 4 years for sure.
The
Crazy.
childish side of me, kind of like Mason Crosby's missed field goal, missed PATs. None of them have mattered, so I'm like, cool, get them out of your system now. Or that pick, obviously, at the time didn't seem to matter. Like even in the moment, it's like, okay, well, we're still several scores ahead. It wasn't like a game changer by any means. So hey, I'd rather have him throw in a pick this week than in a couple weeks when we're in the playoff. But last thing before we kind of wrap this, this special teams segment up a little bit. That was a blocked field goal. No one was offsides.
Right.
And even if that guy was slightly offsides, he wasn't even the guy who blocked it. So that was a big concern. And I just feel like episode after episode, it's like, yeah, we had a pretty good game, but Mason missed a field goal. Yeah, we had a pretty good game, but there was a return touchdown punt against us. And now we had a block field goal that didn't count, but let's be honest, that was a blocked field goal. They ultimately went down and scored on that possession anyway, so how much does it change the game? But, another questionable call that the Packers got, and another like kind of a spot on the special teams group here this season. And that potentially, was a pretty good big game, and also that was the big reason, missed field goal, blocked field goal, why we didn't go for it on that fourth down. So again, another place to be concerned, or should we just kind of say, yeah, something to watch and move on and hope it doesn't come back and catch us?
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's definitely a concern because we're getting to the point where, we're 1 week away from playoffs. Every team you're going to be playing from here on out is either vying for a playoff position or is in the playoffs. Is a good football team. You can't afford special teams mistakes. I think arguably special teams needs to be your tightest unit going into the playoffs because anything like that can cost you a game. I mean, you're talking a blocked field goal, you're talking missed point after attempt or missed field goal or a punt return for a touchdown, whatever it is. Any play like that when you get to playoff time is going to be big and could have huge implications on the game. So that is something that we definitely need to see tightened up here moving into the playoffs because I'm definitely concerned about our special teams play at this point of the season.
For sure. Well, let's just take a quick look at our predictions for the game. I thought the Packers were going to win. You thought the Packers were going to win. I think I had them at 27-24. You had the game just as tight, but a little bit higher scoring at 37-31. Something kind of interesting about this. Obviously, the Packers won it. It was more of a, I would say, blowout, if you will, than we both predicted. It still hit the under. So 55.5 points weren't scored, and that's kind of funny to see when the Packers put up 40. So that was pretty noteworthy, and the Packers by far covered the 3.5 spread there. So I guess to kind of look at the game. We hit on a lot of these already, but were there any big surprises that you saw here this past week on Sunday night?
I think A.J. Dillon obviously is the biggest surprise of the game to anybody. I mean, even Packers fans. I mean, we know a lot more about him than anybody else typically, obviously, but the fact that he went out there, had more carries than he's had all season long, put up over 100 yards, outrushed Derrick Henry, the reigning NFL running champion, was a huge surprise, and then equally surprising was his inability to jump into the stands correctly. But hey, again, we're going to pass on that.
Yeah, no, I think it's got to be the biggest surprise, of the game. I think a second for sure, but maybe a close second. Again, to say it again, we kept Derrick Henry under 100 yards rushing. And if he would have had just a more normal day for himself, let's call it 150, he would have been on pace and can still pull it off. But now he needs about a 200-yard day this week to get 2,000 yards rushing here this season, which is pretty unbelievable.
Yeah, rooting for him. Obviously, that'd be a cool milestone to hit, but he's got an uphill battle next week.
For sure. Well, hey, let's take a look at what happened around the NFC. Unfortunately, the 3:30 game didn't go the way the Packers wanted it to. If the Rams beat Seattle and the Packers beat the Titans, we would already have claimed the number one overall seed and wrapped up that first round bye. And maybe you and I would be talking next Thursday about who we should be sitting and who we should be starting next week against the Bears. But unfortunately, the Rams put up a pathetic effort against Seattle. Goff might be out for a couple weeks with a pretty hurt thumb. So we do need this win next week against the Bears because the Bears have gone on a little bit of a winning streak here. The last few games, and a much needed winning streak because they're going to be fighting for a playoff spot against us. But more on that next week. The only other thing to say is because this is a Packers podcast and it's a podcast for Packer fans living inside enemy territory, is that the Lions and the Vikings are both very bad football teams. They both lost by, I think, 30 or 40 points this past weekend to Tampa Bay for the Lions and the Saints on Christmas Day for the Vikings.
Yeah, I didn't watch much of the Tampa Bay Detroit game, but I watched a lot of that Saints Vikings game, and again, I think the Saints are a tough team. They're going to be a really tough matchup if the Packers face them in the playoffs, but are the Vikings just really that bad? I don't really know. I think it's probably a little bit of both. The Vikings have definitely gotten worse, it seems like, over the last 4 or 5 weeks, and the Saints are the Saints, and they're going to do what they do, but yeah, they just got dismantled by New Orleans, and
for sure.
Yeah, I think that's a big surprise in the NFC North. Everyone thought, I think, coming into this year, the Vikings were going to be, vying for the top spot in the North, but oh well,
but hey,
bummer, Vikes.
We already got it. Sorry, Vikings fans, but hey, now that we have rambled and talked about just about everything that we could about the Titans Packers this past Sunday, it is officially Bears week. And this is a bigger game than we thought it may be just a few weeks ago. The Packers need a win or a Seattle loss to secure the number one overall seed. And the Chicago Bears need a win or a Cardinals loss to secure the last and final spot in the playoffs, securing the second wildcard spot in the NFC. So please join us next Thursday when we talk Bears-Packers border battle. And remember, please don't forget to rate us on iTunes, Google Podcasts, and Spotify. Subscribe to us on your favorite podcast service. And as always, Marcus, go Pack Go.
Go Pack Go.